There's something that every millennial knows deep down, but it pains us to say out loud. Something that's at the core of why so many of us feel so stuck and fried and fed up. That the world we were raised for doesn't exist anymore. And that truth, it sits at the center of why I think so many of us feel this same way. So, take a deep breath with me, because here's the part that we're only starting to admit. The playbook we were handed, it don't work anymore, right? Like millennials grew up being promised a future that no longer exists. We were conditioned to chase success through a lens that was already outdated by the time that we entered adulthood. And for a lot of us, the past few years haven't just been about burnout. They've been about deconstruction of old narratives, old identities, old systems. So if you've ever opened your laptop with tears in your eyes or fantasized about ghosting your career to live in a tiny house in the forest or wondered how the hell we're supposed to retire on vibes and iced coffee, this episode is for you, right? Today, we are digging into the playbook we were raised on and what it cost us, why it no longer works, and why we keep clinging to it anyways. And I think most importantly, how to begin rewriting the script. A playbook for life that's rooted in truth and alignment and healing after generational burnout. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Peter, your millennial mindset mentor and burnout bestie, coming to you straight from Club Couch. And I'm here to make sure that you know that you are not broken, you are not failing, and you are definitely not alone. You're just living in a system that was built for a different time. And this is not about blame. This is about awareness. Because once you see that old script for what it is, you can start rewriting it. And the version you write next, that's the one where you come home to yourself. Welcome to the Millennial Reset, a soft landing for your messy middle. A space for our generation to do the real work of unlearning and rebuilding. For the ones choosing rest over rush, peace over pressure, and alignment over achievement. Because the comeback and the reset isn't about becoming someone better. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. I'm glad you're here. All right, so let's take a little trip back in time to the 90s and our upbringing to really understand what got us here, where success looked like a suburban house and a steady paycheck. And hey, if you played your cards right, maybe even an early retirement at 60 with a golden retriever and a Costco membership. And let's just take a moment to appreciate how good the 90s were to us. Oh, soak it in, soak it in. All right, on with the show. During that time, millennials were raised on a very specific set of instructions, right? Go to college, work hard, buy a house, and everything will be just fine. Hard work was treated like a virtue. Busyness was glorified, and rest? That was reserved for when the work was done. Spoiler alert, the work was never done. But we followed these directions of this playbook to a T. And still, somehow, we ended up here. Burnt out, disconnected, wondering, how did I do everything right and still feel so wrong? We did all the things, expecting that it would work out for us in the same ways that it did for our parents. But it didn't. Instead, we got rising costs and endless unprecedented events and broken systems that have left us burnt out and stuck and physically and mentally, emotionally, and heck, even spiritually drained. Bottom line, we are a generation raised on boundless dreams, but our efforts simply don't produce the same results like generations before. Because the one thing that we weren't told is that the world we were being trained for was already crumbling by the time that we graduated. Wages haven't kept up with the cost of living. Housing prices have skyrocketed. Healthcare and education are financially paralyzing. And through it all, we kept blaming ourselves. We internalized the failure. We started to think, maybe I am lazy. Maybe I'm not doing enough. And I kind of feel like just throwing in the towel and quitting. right? Like we've moved from just work harder to nobody wants to work anymore, period. We're not just tired, we're existentially exhausted. And not just because of the hand that we were dealt, but because we're grieving the life we were promised while trying to survive the one we've been handed. Following the rules only got us a fried nervous system with a side of existential dread. But the truth is, the rules changed, and no one updated the manual for life. But before we can even begin to fathom what an alternative playbook for life might look like, we got to get really honest with ourselves about where we are now and why it might feel so hard to think our way through this one. Because the thing is like the effects of playing by these old rules for so long has many of us stuck in a chronic case of burnout. Not just because of the stressful work environment, but as an effect of that same playbook we were handed. That playbook didn't just shape our decisions, it shaped our identity. We became the overachieving, gold star chasing generation, the burnout badge of honor generation, the generation that equated productivity with worth. We weren't just trying to succeed, we were trying to feel safe. We were trying to prove our enoughness. And when your brain learns that stress equals survival, it doesn't just tolerate stress, it starts to crave it. A brain hardwired for stress and anxiety to the point that we seek out more evidence that stress is the solution. So even when things are quiet, even when everything is technically fine, which I realize is a rarity these days, instead of being able to leverage those moments to think with a clear mind about the future, our nervous system goes, yeah, but where's the next problem we should be worrying about? Because your brain doesn't always look for what's good for you. It looks for what's familiar. And if stress has been familiar since you were, 10 years old, then calm starts to feel suspicious. Stillness starts to feel like slacking, and slowing down starts to feel dangerous. And this is where it gets even deeper, right? Your brain has this filter system, okay? It's called your RAS, your reticular activating system. And it basically decides what you notice, what you ignore, what feels important. And when you spent this many years in survival mode, your brain's not scanning for opportunity. It's scanning for threats. So you start collecting evidence that matches the reality that you already believe in. The reality that says, I'm behind, I'm not doing enough, this isn't working, something's about to go wrong. And that's why our brains have normalized cortisol, chaos, and hypervigilance to the point where peace feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe. So we keep pushing, we keep performing, we keep producing, even when we're exhausted, even when we know better. Because deep down, that conditioning is still running in the background like dial-up internet. Slow and loud and somehow still controlling the whole system. And now we're waking up in our 30s and 40s with whiplash, looking around and realizing, why is this still not working for me? Okay, but here's what I need you to hear in all this, right? The what happened to us, I'm sorry, but we can't change it, as much as we might wish we could. But the conditioning and the programming that keeps us stuck living from this old playbook of fear mode and stress mode, that we can change with a lot of conscious effort. And if we can all start there by rewriting the programming that got us here to begin with, we'll have a lot more clarity to figure out what that new playbook could look like. So this moment that we're in right now is not a personal failure, I promise. It's a reckoning. It's a collective deconstruction of everything we were told to value and the beginning of something new. So what might that something new look and feel like, right? Now that we're a little bit more aware of how we got here and why the old way of doing things isn't working, let's pivot to that alternative. This is the start of a new chapter. the one where we get to choose the script instead of blindly following the old one. This is where we stop trying to force ourselves back into a system that never fit, and we start building something that actually does. And it starts by giving our brains a new narrative to work from. And here's why that script matters so much, right? Again, your brain's always looking for proof. It's always collecting evidence. So if your internal story is, I'm stuck, guess what? Your subconscious is going to go to work like an unpaid intern on its third Red Bull, searching for evidence to confirm it. Whatever story you keep repeating, your brain starts treating it like a set of instructions. So if we want to change the outcome, we have to change the narrative. New directions for the subconscious that creates 90 to 95% of our reality. And don't get me wrong, this ain't going to happen overnight. Believe you me. I've been working on this for years and I'm still working on it. So I want to keep it super simple for you, okay? With 3 powerful reframes that can start rewiring the way you see yourself and your life and your future. Okay, so open up your ears. Here's number 1. You are not broken. The system is. Okay, I'll let that soak in for a second. You are not failing. You are just mistaking exhaustion for failure. You're exhausted from operating inside of a system that rewards burnout and calls it ambition. You're not lazy. You're living in a system that thrives on keeping you too tired to think for yourself. And this is exactly why rest isn't just self-care. Yeah, rest is recovery, and it's also regulation, and it's also how you get access to the part of your brain that can actually think clearly again. Because when you're in a constant fight or flight response, you can't problem solve. You can't future plan. You can't create. The only thing that you can do is survive. And so if slowing down feels hard, that makes sense. If rest feels weird, that makes sense. Okay, sometimes rest is going to feel uncomfortable because it's your nervous system literally relearning safety again. So even if all you can do today is take 30 seconds between the chaos and breathe, that still counts. That's not nothing, that's rewiring. And I truly, truly believe the sustainable way out of this isn't for all of us to just quit our jobs and scream in the streets. I think it's much quieter than that. It's a protest happening in our own living rooms and bedrooms and parked cars when we choose to slow down inside a system that depends on our hustle. Seeing rest for what it really is, a requirement instead of a reward, a form of resistance to fight back against a rigged system that's dependent on you believing that the path to success is just more hard work. Okay, so let me say it one more time and louder for the people in the back. You are not broken. The system is. All right, number 2, another biggie here for you. You're not stuck. And I know how hard that is to believe right now. But I promise you are not stuck. You are just in the messy middle between who you used to be and who you're becoming. This is the part nobody prepares you for. And it's the hardest part because you're too far away from the old you to go back, but not far enough into the new you to feel certain. And so your brain tries to bargain. Well, maybe I should just go back to what I know. Maybe I should just push harder. Maybe I'm being dramatic. But what if walking away from that old version of you was the bravest thing you've ever done? Because as tired as we all are, we're also waking up to the truth that for things to change, we have to change. And that means shedding an identity built on burnout and having what might be the first honest conversation our soul has had with us in years. Right? You're not falling behind. You're finally falling into alignment. You're pioneering a new path forward. We are the in-between generation, the bridge between the old playbook and something radically new. The cycle breakers, the rebuilders, the ones who still remember somewhere deep inside of ourselves who we were before the world told us who to be, and finally making space to rediscover that version again. And last but not least, number 3, You don't have to go this alone. We learned independence like it was a badge of honor, when really it was just survival. But burnout thrives in isolation. And your brain was not built to heal in a vacuum. Okay, support is not weakness, support is regulation. And listen, I know we can't all magically create the communities we dream about overnight where we live in harmony and raise each other's nervous systems like houseplants, but we can create the spaces, even if they're virtual, to connect and to share and to feel a little bit less alone in this. And there's a bonus in that too, because when we come together, we don't just heal. That's where we start imagining the new possibilities. We start sharing new ideas for what we want our future to look like. And by the way, if you feel like you could benefit from that type of space, highly, highly encourage you to go check out the amazing support community that we've built on Patreon called Club Chrysalis. It's a space for other millennials that are in their messy middle to find your people who actually get you and are ready to cheer you on. You can always learn more about that on the website, www.themillennialreset.com. But in closing today, thinking about those three big narratives, if you take nothing else from this episode, take these three truths. You are not broken. You are not stuck. And my goodness, you are not alone and you don't have to go this alone. You are awakening at a time when the world needs awakened people the most. Our generation was handed a playbook that was supposed to guarantee a good life. And for a while, it worked. Or at least it looked like it worked. But this is the moment where everything changes. And it's not because the world suddenly gets easier or calmer or more peaceful, but because we finally see the truth. That the old rules were never designed to protect our peace. They were designed to extract our output. And even if it feels messy right now, remember that what you are doing is something that most people never even get a chance to realize. And that is that who you are is enough. Period. Without conditions, without invisible expectations, and without the gaslighting that says you should be doing something more just to deserve your own life. And waking up, that don't always feel like freedom at first. Sometimes it feels like grief. Sometimes it feels like confusion. Sometimes it feels like, oh wait, if I'm not performing, then who the heck am I? But this way out isn't by doing more or proving anything, but by choosing to regulate, to slow down, and to come home to ourselves, to stop abandoning our needs just to keep up with someone else's expectations. So if you're tired, good. That means you're doing something right. You're in the messy middle of something powerful, but also completely draining. You're literally draining what's no longer serving you so that you can make space for something better. And every time that you choose rest over resentment and peace over performance and softness over shame, you're coming back home. And from that place of centeredness and alignment and truth, that's where the new playbook gets written. All right, I love you all. I'm proud of you for being here. Be sure to subscribe, follow along in your own messy middle, and share this episode with a fellow millennial who needs to hear this. And I'll see you on the next one.